Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives, happening every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday on easbizradio.com at 12 o'clock, guys. You can catch the Lunchtime Series on all major podcast channels. And for our Lunchtime Marketing segment, proudly supported by Hollard Insurance, hashtag big ads for small businesses. As per usual, marketing and communications expert Craig Pagely. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Yeah, thanks. Good to be chatting again. And did you know that it's our 40th consecutive show
Oh,
today?
wow.
Yeah, 12 more, and then we've got a year under the belt, eh?
Man, that's exciting. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's amazing. Craig, so last week we covered the topic of artificial intelligence, as you know, and this is one of the favorite topics and an area of development that I have had a huge interest in, especially around how far AI will evolve before it's deemed bad AI.
Yeah, quite rightly so, Kevin. And as you know, I'm always mentioning the need for some kind of regulatory body to establish where that divergence between good and bad AI is, and who's the moderator in this particular space.
Yeah. So before we continue with the show today, can you share with us a little bit of some of those takeaways that we had from last week's conversation?
Absolutely, Kevin. So I want to touch on the definitions and types of AI again, because there were some really key takeouts from that conversation last week, and getting to understand the concepts and important points. So let's start off with that. So artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially computers, and that specific application of AI includes expert systems, natural language process, NLP, speech recognition, and machine learning. And interestingly, the definition goes quite a bit deeper from AI to machine learning to that deep learning that we spoke about. So let's just quickly expand on the three concepts. So if one looked at three concentric rings, outer ring, middle ring, and smaller ring, the outer ring represents AI, which you know is the umbrella term for machine learning and machines that are capable of perception, logic, and learning. The next or sort of middle inner ring represents machine learning, which employs the algorithms that learn from data. And as we've discussed, big data input. So the machine learning employs algorithms that learn from data to make predictions or decisions, and whose performance improves when exposed to more and more data. It's an iterative process. The inner ring represents the deep learning, and it uses many layers of neural networks to build algorithms and to find the best way to perform tasks on their own based on those sets of data inputs, Kevin.
Yeah.
So AI is also defined as being responsive, decisive, adaptive, and independent. So responsive AI can engage in interaction from humans or other machines, interpreting meaning and then formulating an appropriate response. Decisive AI can actually interpret supplied information and start taking appropriate actions to achieve those mandated goals. Adaptive AI can start internalizing information and adjust its behavior accordingly to maximize effectiveness. And importantly, and lastly, independent AI can actually conduct most of its decision-making processes without the need for human input. So that's the deepest form, with really deep understanding of all of the previous elements and data inputs. So as with anything, there's advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages of AI: it's good at detail-oriented jobs. It reduces time for heavy tasks. It can take data and quickly turn it into actionable information and insights much faster and more accurately than any human being possible. It delivers consistent results, important for every business. And AI-powered virtual agents are always available in the form of chatbots, the most simple definition of that. The disadvantages, Kevin, is it's obviously expensive to process large amounts of data, and AI programs require that, so it's definitely going to be an inhibitor until that aspect of the industry finds a cheaper cost to deliver. It requires deep technical expertise with limited supply of qualified workers available. However, that is an area of career development that's growing quite rapidly. And AI only knows what has been shown. It lacks the ability to generalize from one task to the other, which in itself is probably a good thing. So can also be categorized as weak or strong. Weak or narrow AI is a system that's designed and trained to complete specific tasks only, like those deployed in industrial robots and virtual personal assistants, such as the likes of Apple Siri. Strong AI, on the other hand, is known as artificial general intelligence, and it describes programming that can actually replicate the cognitive abilities of the human brain. And when presented with an unfamiliar task, a strong AI system can use some fuzzy logic, which it applies the degrees of truth to actually start applying knowledge from one domain to another to find a solution. Yeah, and that's the key takeaway points from last week's conversation, Kevin.
Yeah, Craig, I think what's interesting about it is, being a marketing show and touching on topics like this, a lot of people might think like, well, what's AI actually got to do with what we're talking about here? But I think it's a strong consideration for where the world is evolving to, right? And I mean, there's a new Netflix show on Netflix. I forget the name now, but it's a new sci-fi sort of experience. And they actually have a sort of a hologrammed intelligence on this spaceship. And what's interesting is the stories are written around how the AI actually starts emulating and understanding what feelings and emotions are like, engaging with humans, which I thought was like a really interesting concept. Where eventually AI could potentially emulate and sort of copy, understanding what human emotions are going through.
Very much so. And I like the fact that you've actually touched on human emotions, because as we go into today's conversation, you're going to get a sense of some of that in a couple of the areas that I picked up on. But most definitely, some of the detail we picked up on last week is really demonstrates the value that AI can bring into the communications world and marketing world, and through understanding those behavioral aspects, the human intelligence, the human emotions, some predictive analysis can come to play to bring and pair brands and solutions to humans based on their previous behavior and association with brands, the areas that they're engaging in online, really just sweeping the whole digital world to find cues and clues to start formulating real purpose conversation components and start the dialogue with humans via AI.
Yeah, great. So moving on from those insights, what are we chatting about today?
Yeah, Kevin, so I want to take a deeper look at one of the areas evolving out of AI and get to understand how this is impacting on our lives. And it pairs in nicely with the point you've just made. And the area in question here is that of robotics and the impact of robots on the retail sector.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the discussion, and can't actually wait, like how long it will be before I can send a robot to do all my shopping while I spend some time doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. There are many of us who, can we strip out those menial tasks out of our lives and get the machines to do it for us while we actually do something more purposeful, whether it's, improving our knowledge, taking a break, improving our fitness and things like that. So, yeah. I want to start by looking at some of the definitions as usual. And this is what I found. Again, a broad range of deep insights on this. So robots, especially in science fiction, probably around the movie you're just talking about, robots are machine learning resembling a human being and able to replicate certain human movements and functionality automatically. A robot is a machine, especially one programmable by a computer, capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically. A robot can be guided by an external control device, or the control may be embedded within it. Robots may be constructed to evoke human form, but most robots are task-performing machines designed with an emphasis on stark functionality rather than expressive aesthetics, and that particular definition from Wikipedia. And as you can see, the very granular task-oriented behavioral aspects, and much of that being in the likes of automotive production and things like that. Finally, robots can be autonomous, having the freedom to give or govern self-control, or semi-autonomous, acting independently to some degree, denoting or performed by a device that is capable to some extent of operating without human control. So it can move from that fairly rigorous, systematic, autonomous process of making vehicles and packing shelves and turning burgers to actually becoming a more participative conversationalist in the being. And we're going to definitely touch on some of that.
Great. So, I mean, I think that's, one of the biggest questions that we want to know is, can robots replace human beings in the workplace? And I think some people are worried about it. I think it's a good thing. I think there's so many jobs that, we can replace, that we should replace.
Kevin, absolutely. So yeah, we have touched on some of this before because it's a real burning issue. And in short, yes, robots or machines can and absolutely will replace human beings, but only in certain jobs. We also learned that in many instances, there'll be an equal number of opportunities for jobs to be done by people for every job taken over by machines. And in many cases, humans and machines will find themselves in some kind of symbiotic relationship, helping each other to do best for each other as well, which is an important point. And I don't know if you remember last week, we spoke about AI, autonomous or semi-autonomous, where the adaptation of AI eliminated 1 million jobs in the conversation in question, but at the same time, it opened an opportunity to create 1.2 million jobs, but obviously indirectly through different kinds of job roles that are being developed around the birthing of AI. So a few of the job titles are the likes of AI programmers, data and security analysts, robot manufacturers, technicians, and some of these jobs definitely will be of the creative type as well. This nullifies the point, actually, that automation will destroy net job growth. So whilst taking over, it definitely will create opportunities, and there should be a net off balance or at least an increase in new jobs being created with new titles in the future.
Yeah.
So, but in closing on that point, Kevin, it's worth remembering that robots lack creativity, they lack empathy, communication skills, strategic thinking, common sense, and decision-making ability. And all of these are key skills that humans possess. So at least, we're on the safe side of being usurped for a period of time, at least.
Great, but as you're talking about, the things that AI will be able to, I just think of the presupposition of NLP that speaks of the law of requisite variety. I think I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
Where the state, the system, and person with the most flexibility of behavior will control the system. And when you consider that, as humans, and it's what I use in a lot of training, a lot of leadership. How capable and flexible and agile are you within the system that you're working in, and how adaptable are you as a person, within that environment? Because if you're not, you might get stuck, you might be frustrated. So we have to learn that skill as a skill as well.
Absolutely, Kevin, and it's vitally important to have those rigid frameworks in place, because the flexibility of behavior within that is great, but when you get to either end, the consequence could be quite disastrous. And that in itself is an opportunity where possibly there are some new jobs to be created, where there's training around behavior and relationships with AI. There's training around the extent of writing good AI versus writing bad AI and the likes. But yes, it's a very big black hole at the moment, and there's a lot of work to be done to really get it in place and well contained.
So getting back to the main topic of conversation, what do we know about the impacts of robots in retail?
So Kevin, yeah, as with the topic of AI, there's a huge amount on this topic, and I must tell you, it's a topic that's gained a lot of interest and relevance, particularly during COVID pandemic, because there was a need to really replace some human intervention in certain instances. So I want to open the conversation by referencing an article titled "Robots in Retail: Driving Innovation One Aisle at a Time," and it was published to WSN.com. So the article provided 5 key insights on the topic and was written by Tamros Mondal, the subject matter expert in retail and consumer priced goods. So The article started off delivering 3 key points. That first one being that robots are rapidly becoming the first customer touchpoint in retail outlets. Robots can drive innovation and be infused into every stage of the retail value chain to fuel sustainable growth. And lastly, artificial intelligence, analytics, and machine learning combined with robots can actually drive enhanced customer engagement and really take it to the next level. So according to Boston Consulting Group, it's always good to have some facts here. The global robotics market is estimated to reach $87 billion by 2025. And it's believed that more of that spend and development investment will actually be allocated to the retail market.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily surprising though, Kevin, because firstly, retail has always been an early adopter of advanced technologies. And secondly, automation is not a new phenomenon to the industry. But what's on the increase though is the pressure on one component, that being the warehousing and factory automation to innovate, and especially against the challenge from e-commerce first retailers that are starting to make huge investments in robotics. I mentioned the article addresses 5 other key insights. These are listed as robots and robots across the retail value chain, boosting productivity in logistics and supply chain, bringing intelligence to merchandising and store operations, strategizing for enhanced customer experience, probably one of the most important points, and robotic customer touchpoints, a nice segue out of the customer experience proposition. So let me give you some detail for each of those 5 points. Starting with the robots across the retail value chain component, Kevin, we learned that from a logistics and supply chain point of view, to back operations, store operations, merchandising, sales, and marketing to customer-facing experience, robotics can and is driving innovation, and it is helping to boost bottom-line outcomes. We also note that the e-commerce retailers are definitely developing their systems that are personalized for customers at the front end and for the users at the back end. And the users obviously being the entire supply chain, as well as the logistics and delivery components. Robots can also play a game-changing role in many areas of these operations, from including the likes of welcoming customers, minimizing negative experiences in store, achieving zero-defect logistics, product picking and delivery, and managing across the customer path observation and analysis, and being able to feed this back into the organization for continuous improvement and delivery. The second point that the article addresses is the boosting of productivity and logistics and supply. And whilst the investment is very much in that space, we're going to continue seeing absolute large-scale enhancement there. Yeah, we learned that the robotics have impacted positively on distribution center operations through speed and accuracy of order picking. And a good example here is obviously the brand we all know, Amazon, where Amazon has stated that its operating costs have come down 20% through the development of systematic and sophisticated robotics. And, if you look at the scale of the spend in the Amazon space, saving 20% is a huge a benefit to the bottom line there. A new generation of robots and automation tools and technologies are also helping achieve higher productivity through zero-defect logistics processes, and the use of robots in the logistics and supply chain is enabling retailers to achieve huge savings from stockout shortages and losses, and managing shrinkage due to admin errors as well. And really, it's very much helping the on-demand management process of productivity as well. It also offers retailers the flexibility to move their sales personnel to functions that will drive higher sales, and a point that we picked up on last week. So take human deployment into areas where the business needs that human engagement, and that's very much more on the face-to-face, person-to-person kind of capability as well, and where the creative and collective thinking needs to happen.
Craig, what's interesting is, just listening to all of this, I've recently been on one of the programs where they were speaking about data and the importance of data, and they were the speaker on this program was mentioning how just because of facial recognition, retailers are actually sort of picking up who is arriving at stores. I don't think it's happening in South Africa, but it is happening in the world, where because the retailer or the data that they're collecting from people arriving at stores, they know who this person is, because of facial recognition.
Yes,
They also
yes.
connect that to swiping what these people are buying at the store. And because of that, they are using social media to kind of drive more product,
Yes,
advertising to
yes.
them. So like when you listen to all how AI is really being integrated into how we buy anything, and how sort of our where we spend our money on a day-to-day basis, it's interesting to see how it's really it's part of what we do. It's part of our lives already.
Absolutely. And I think, some of the key value drivers coming out of the management of supply and logistics side as well, Kevin, is when there's a reduction in shrinkage, when there's absolute clarity and understanding productivity and manufacture to meet demand, you're not pricing into the final product for loss, for all of these other extraneous components that happen in the existence of a business. So just managing the costs and the capability is really paramount. And you can pass that net cost saving onto a consumer, or not have a price increase the following year, through being able to start bringing this perfection of managing the business in real time to meet customer demand as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So the third point addresses bringing intelligence to merchandising and store operations, and it talks very much to part of what you've just noted. So here we note that robots are being migrated from their proven role in warehouse backends to new roles actually on the retail floor, Kevin. And embedding AI in them will allow retailers to fundamentally improve the customer experience journey. And how? Because simple sensor-based robots can actually bring customers what they're looking for, and AI-led robots can actually start providing personalized product recommendations to customers. So again, through those inputs of data, understanding consumer behavior, understanding previous shopper behavior, those inputs then can start formulating a range of recommendations based on the customer's queries and inquiries. The data plays an important role, as the robot's advice is informed by the analysis insights gained by combining customer data like age, demographics, geographic location, and their previous history. And geo is an important one, because certain shops will actually offer certain products in certain geographic regions that aren't necessarily in other regions as well. Robots can be pre-programmed to chat with customers, interesting point here, and answer their questions and give directions in store. And a great learning is AI also enables these robots to use the tone of the customer's voice to assess whether they're happy or sad, in a point that you made earlier. And on the back of that can actually have a series of pre-programmed responses in place to mitigate any negativity on the back of that, or actually to reward a customer that's in a more happy space. So some of the direct in-store benefits here, Kevin, is that robots can actually use their arms to pick up merchandise that customers choose online. They can go through the store, they know where it is. Customers engaging through a digital interface, and the robot can physically collect that. They can also help a retailer save on store space by shelving merchandise vertically. And again, this is a really great thing that we spoke about previously. I believe that the front end of high value retail really should be reduced in size, and the back end of retail should be warehousing, distribution, rental rates, where the robots can actually start selecting and picking and bringing that product into the store. And just imagine, the traditional development of malls in the country could be a third smaller at the higher rentals and 2/3 bigger, where the back end is now manufacture, production, and or storage, as opposed to that high end retail rental cost. Customers can also order and pay for what they pick up before leaving the dressing room, all through the interface with the robot, Kevin. The fourth point here is strategizing for enhanced customer experience, and a hugely important component of retail success. So an example of this capability is the order and pay app by Starbucks. We speak about it quite often here, where Self-service robotic systems enhances the customer experience. You can be driving to the store, put your pre-order in, anticipate the time of arrival, have your payment gateway ready, arrive, pick up, and off you go, all managed through AI and robotics. Another example also includes the self-checkout service, self-scanning and mobile shopping in retails as well. And as you mentioned earlier, Kevin, data, big data really plays a key role here, with many organizations actually starting to rethink how they enhance their customer behavior analysis to identify more of those actionable insights and engagement touch points there. Dedicated marketing intelligence departments are starting to process those huge amounts of data, and they're starting to adopt the Internet of Things behavior, picking up 3D sensors in customer in-store journeys. One of the traditional areas there is a sensor on a hanger on the shelf, knowing that hanger is the one that's being connected, knowing the next one based on color, based on shape, based on pattern, based on size, and starting to formulate that information, and through the digital interfaces starting to assign that to a particular user in store. The probabilities and statistics can then create the models for much more in-depth and better engagement, connecting with end customers, leading to higher heightened and wow experiences, automation and efficient, effective follow-up processes, and proactive recognition and correction of customer issues. Now, just imagine when you start having facial recognition in a robot and it starts building a relationship with the same visitor, knowing that individual, starting to engage that individual by name in a personal capacity as well. Phenomenal. The sensory features also analyze customer counts in store, and they can track in-store movements, and they can establish the behavior and where the hotspots of engagement in store as well, and what are those particular products that are having greater affinity with customers as well. And then retailers can use augmented or virtual reality to actually immerse consumers in a full environment for a more engaging and exciting experience. And VR, something that we've spoken about, AR and VR quite a bit previously. To quote from the article, Kevin, as the digital revolution in retail gathers steam, robotics, Internet of Things, AI, and big data are the intersection to personal customer experiences. Retailers can then use technologies to ingest this information into an in-store and out-of-store promotional activity and optimize the best product assortment for that particular person in that particular environment at any one time.
Craig, I mean, I don't know if you know this. Have you seen that F&B has already started using AI? So you don't, when you phone, I was on the phone yesterday with them, and the computer actually says to you, please tell me what it is I can assist you with. And it listens to what it is you're saying, and then directs you to a channel. So it's not that choose one for this and choose, they've already started using it with at F&B.
That's fantastic. I haven't yet experienced that. Fortunately, I'm not phoning F&B to moan too much. But that's really great to hear, because I hate the click 6 to go here, click 7 to go there, and basically they all lead you to the same endpoint, and it's a really disastrous experience. And the medical aid companies are really good at that negative experience. So I'm definitely going to try that out. I'd love to be able to talk into the environment and be directed to somebody who's actually going to respond back in voice again with me as well. Yeah. And I think one of the things is, they might still be in development, but it's really great to know that there's a bank who's wanting to have a conversation as opposed to a typed bot, static, step-by-step kind of engagement. That's really great to know.
Yeah.
The fifth and final point, Kevin, that the article addresses is robotic customer touchpoints. And, this may actually play straight into what you've just described from an F&B bank point of view. So some of these would be innovative applications like welcome robots that track and monitor and analyze customer journeys, and operational front-facing robots that are actually in store. Robotics in retail has evolved to include, in fact, here it is, I mentioned it earlier on, facial and voice recognition features. So being able to start building that personal relationship, even though it was with a mechanical device or an algorithm in store. And the opportunities here are that we can demonstrate complex thinking and reactions that require a high degree of intuitive or creative skills. So whilst we do own our creative thinking, there is very much an evolution into robotics beginning to understand the creative skill parameters. So to end this section, Kevin, I want to quote from the article's closing paragraph. And it's a really great statement. It says, while robots in retail are still a novelty, their rising adoption and evolving sophistication will make them ubiquitous in the future. For customers, the increasing presence of helpful robots in store will translate to hassle-free, personalized shopping experiences. Retailers can then capitalize on the rise of robots to realize improved productivity, cut costs, enhance the customer experience, and boost profits. Robots, when combined with digital technologies such as analytics, AI, and machine learning, have the potential to drive transformation across the retail value chain, and that transformation will materialize sooner than we think. That's a fact.
Yeah, Craig, and as you mentioned, the fact that it still might be a new kind of thing for especially for South Africa, but the fact that it's already starting to happen, the fact that we're bringing awareness to it in this conversation, I'm looking forward to what the future has and the potential of that. I mean,
yeah, you and I both.
You mentioned in the past that the AI and the robotics has application in other industries as well. Can you provide examples for us to the listeners about that?
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. One of the other key areas is very much in the hospitality industry, and I think that is very much born out of the likes of COVID actually influencing the fact that there are certain areas where we need to eliminate a lot more human-to-human, face-to-face contact, whilst not compromising the experience in any way whatsoever. So, referencing an article titled 8 Examples of Robots Being Used in Hospitality Industry, published to revfind.com, which is a knowledge portal for the hospitality and travel industry, we learned the following. The use of robots within the industry is becoming more commonplace, with the users ranging from artificial intelligence chatbots designed to assist with the customer service process through to robots assistants being deployed to improve guest experience in a hotel. And Kevin, that can be from door greeters, meter greeters, taking baggage to suites and rooms and things like that. So other examples include chatbots that allow a hotel or travel company to provide 24/7 support through online chats and instant messaging services, particularly when staff are not available, and then being able to push you through to a member of staff when they are available. And at least, part of your query or inquiry has already been addressed. Robots can be used during check-in processes. They can speed up the entire process, and this definitely can help reduce congestion, particularly in high demand areas of the industry. And in some instances, they are digital concierges, as I mentioned earlier. But going back to the article, I just want to pick up on some of the other examples listed in a bit more detail. There's a great example, which is the world's first robot-staffed hotel. It's situated in Nagasaki in Japan. The Hena Hotel became the first hotel in the world, Kevin, to be staffed entirely by robots. The robots are deployed throughout the hotel, and they provide information. They manage the front check-in desk services. They manage the storage services. They manage your checkout service as well. And they've got embedded voice and facial recognition technology, so they can actually start understanding repeat visitors to the hotels as well.
Greg, just as you mentioned, as you're talking about it now, I don't know how I feel about not having a human being at the hotel. I'm kind of like, when you go to a hotel, you're expecting that engagement, that feeling of someone's taking care of you, like that. I don't know, mate. Like, especially when you go on holiday, you kind of go, okay, cool. So like you're at the pool or having a cocktail, and there's human engagement. If you went to a hotel that was just robots, that even the sense of quietness that there'd be like almost like silence. I don't know if that appeals to me. I'm like, would you go and do that? Would you do that?
I have to admit, I want to experience it at least once to understand it, and get to experience whether it's a total alienation kind of feeling for me, or if it's something that is just in many ways streamlining the process and giving me more peace of mind and more of my own time. I definitely would like to experience it and formulate an opinion on that end. But the one thing is I do agree is there's always a sense of human connection that I believe is important in our existence, whether you're in the retail store or at a hotel.
Yeah.
The second point here is the Hilton robot concierge named Connie. So Hilton Group have developed Connie, the robot concierge, and they make use of artificial intelligence in the platform developed by IBM. And as we know, IBM is doing deep thinking into this space. And Connie is able to interact with guests and respond to their questions. It's got really, really strong speech recognition capability, and the system also learns and adapts with each of the interactions and improves the answers as it evolves and more of the data is inputted. The third point here is a robot suitcase called TravelMate. TravelMate's an autonomous suitcase which is able to follow you on its own, and it makes use of anti-collision technology that is a 360-degree turning capability as well, and it eliminates the need for carrying, pulling, or being pushed around. So, when you're an active businessman and you're cruising through airport after airport and hotel lobby after hotel lobby, that's a great, great device to be following on behind you. The fourth point here is a robot for travel agencies. They definitely been used to pre-qualify customers during busy periods, find out what the customer's needs are, preference stack them, and then pass them on to the final conclusion of resolving their needs or questions with a human when they're able to do that. The fifth point is a chatbot to make your flight or hotel booking. So apart from just having it as a pre-call in a travel agency, is actually to have a total online booking management system delivered by chatbot, from literally from flight bookings to hotel bookings to car bookings to restaurant bookings. An important point is the sixth point, Kevin, which is security for airports. A really great one here, where airport security is one of the most important areas of the new technology is deployed, including actual robots, not just algorithms and AI. An important example is the night scopes that robots are being fitted with, which can actually detect concealed weapons in the form of X-ray capability, and it can help keep passengers safe during their flights as well. And in closing on this point, Kevin, I definitely want to mention a few other examples outside of the travel industry where AI and robotics are used. These include the lines of the airline industry. Unexpected airline maintenance can delay flights, not only because of sudden need to make repairs, but also for required part or components not in hand. Inventory management is important in that regard. Using the Internet of Things approach to aircraft maintenance would mean better inventory management, parts of suppliers, and potentially the capability for aircraft itself to signal a need for repair or replacement before the plane is taken off and is out of service. And, a brand that really absolutely understood this many years ago already is the Caterpillar brand, where the yellow machinery is working in the deepest components of the Amazon forest or out in really remote villages around the world. Telematics were able to calculate the number of turns of a turbine or ignition or whatever it may be, and actually would send a sensor back to mothership to state that it's getting ready for service time, it's getting ready for component replacement time, and they could then have a scheduled replacement or service program to these remote areas in a well managed in a well managed way per se. In the real estate industry, it's quite interesting, where autonomous robot cleaners can actually now start going into spaces, whether it's offices, hotels, airports, retail malls, etc. as well, Kevin. So whilst we do see AI and robotic applications across many industries, the big opportunity still remains in the retail sector. And this is reaffirmed in a quote from an article titled what robots can do for retail, which was published on 1 October 2020 by Ben Forgan, who's the co-founder of Hologram, a global ORT connectivity platform. The quote is, as product cycles speed up, retailers will need to become even more agile in identifying micro trends in consumer behavior to produce, distribute, and the supply of goods and services that customers want right now. The key to all of this may well be a robot roaming freely, bringing data from the consumer touchpoint into the stall eye, into the data management system, and into the cloud.
Craig, I'm like, if AI could help you buy a house quicker, that would help. Like the process of having go through and getting all of that done in just buying a house is like, so I'm looking forward to the AI helping us do that faster.
Yeah, so Kevin, we don't yet have any real estate agents utilizing AR or VR because, there's that company in Australia that we spoke about a little while ago when we touched on the augmented reality conversation where you could literally drive by a house, point your phone at the house, at the sale board outside, all of the base information around the house, the neighborhood, the environment, the rates and taxes and levies, nearest schools and all the rest actually come to you. And when you do engage with it, there is a total online application process where you start engaging with chatbots and AI-driven capabilities. So yeah, something that definitely has room for development in this country, but it really has been well proven in an Australian application.
I do know that there's virtual walkarounds now that you can do. That's
yes.
really cool. So you can literally walk through a house using just hopping on, and I think it's available on Property 24 or something like that you can
yes.
actually go and check it out, the house, and you literally get to walk through the entire house, which is really cool. But I mean, Craig, as we wrap up today's conversation, like what are the wrap-up points for the listeners we've got today?
Kevin, so yeah, I want to close by referencing a great article from Gartner. And Gartner is a significantly important technology research and consulting firm, and it's definitely one of my favorite go-to sources for industry updates and learning. So the report's titled Market Guide for Smart Robots in Retail, and it was published to Grey Orange, a really interesting platform as well, as recent as September this year. Grey Orange is a leading tech company that actually automates warehouse fulfillment through the combination of AI software and autonomous robots to deliver high yield fulfillment. So really a great source of input there. The report was published by Gartner analyst Kelsey Marion. The first time she reported, at least published report, was on the 24th of June. And the report covers the expanding role of smart robots in retail as labor shortages persist against the backdrop of rising consumer demand. Some of the key findings are as follows. The critical need to optimize costs due to labor shortages and minimum wage increases is driving continued retailer interest in investment in smart robots throughout 2021. And this is a bit of a catch-22 where obviously, is the retail industry paying optimum wage? If it is, are the demands on higher wages unfair? And is the replacement of the human by robots in that environment a fair point either as well?
Yeah.
Frontline associate engagement and retention to top priorities for retailers, making the smart robot's ability to efficiently perform repetitive operational tasks as a fundamental requirement in the digital workplace environment. Smart robots enable real-time data capture and analysis, essential for that unified commerce execution. The critical thing here is the data must be connected from store to back office systems to actually realize the full potential, because if you're not bringing the two components of analysis together, you're not going to enhance the customer experience downstream. There needs to be continued investment in smart robot technology. This will help further optimize costs while releasing human resources to more revenue generating roles. As we said earlier, do we take them away from the mundane, repetitive kind of roles to much more value adding front end roles as well, Kevin? Pilots and implementation of smart robots in physical stores and warehouse environments are definitely a key priority for the next year, and gaining attention both from retailers and customers. Smart robots can be added incrementally and deliver significant value without large-scale development or disruption, and therefore delivering a significant return on investment. The retailers are scaling up smart robots to support flexibility and labor optimization in physical stores for unified commerce execution. I think another good expansion on this point here is that in the likes of the work from home scenario or limited time in the formal corporate work environment, what roles can robots start taking on to close the gap of staff that are not there at that time, and allow more flexibility for humans needing to have to go into the work environment as well.
Yeah.
So in closing, Kevin, Gartner defines smart robots as electromechanical form factors that work autonomously in the physical world. Smart robots learn in short-term intervals from human-supervised training and demonstrations, or by their supervised experiences on the job. They sense environmental conditions and recognize and solve problems. Some can interact with humans using voice language, while some have specialized mobile functions used in warehouse for delivery. Due to advanced sensory and intelligence capabilities, some smart robots may work alongside human beings. That's a wrap of the points from my side.
Fantastic, Craig, and such interesting conversation around AI. Guys, if you want to check it out, it happens every Thursday right here on ebizradio.com. And Craig always gives us something really interesting to think about in terms of how the world is evolving around what we're doing. So, I find it really fascinating. Craig, so what are we lined up for next week?
Yeah, Kevin, I want to address the topic of diversity and representation in business. And a rather tongue-in-cheek comment here. And in this instance, robots are definitely excluded from the solution.
Fantastic. Craig, thank you so much. Thanks for today's chat. And that's the Lunchtime Marketing segment every Thursday at 12 on ebizradio.com. I'll chat to you soon. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to chat.
Cheers.